What's Your Work Fit is sponsored by Hudson Davis. Start your brand's marketing and communications journey today at hudsondaviscommunications.com. I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit? So that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone. Dan Smolin here. Welcome to everybody across North America and around the world. I'm so pleased to have you here on What's Your Work Fit. Okay, time for an ask. If you submit a question to our live show, a future show question, and we pick it, you will get a What's Your Work Fit baseball cap. It is embroidered. It looks great. And it's our way of saying thanks. We drive this show off of viewer participation. And so having questions from people who are up at night thinking about their careers is what drives the value of What's Your Work Fit. So I hope you will put your thinking caps on, come up with a great question, and if we select it, it will become the topic of a future episode of What's Your Work Fit. Okay, the time has come. I want to introduce you to our guest today. Welcome, Mike Faber. Hey, Mike, how you doing, bud?
Dan, I am doing well. Thank you. I'm sitting amidst a pile of cardboard boxes. We're getting ready to move out of our house after 27 years, and I'm amazed at how much stuff we have accumulated.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you've gone through a lot. We're going to get to it, but I'm going to do a little introduction about you. Mike Faber is a veteran learning and development professional who designs and facilitates leadership and training for sales professionals. In January, Mike was laid off from his executive role. And so we're going to ask Mike a question that was submitted recently by a woman named Helen. Helen is a mid-level management executive who, over 5 years, immersed herself in work and workplace. Last month, she was laid off. I'm sorry about that, Helen. And management assured her that her severance was not due to a performance issue, but rather broader corporate-wide performance and the cutbacks that were needed to achieve it. During her 5 years on the job, she never considered the possibility of a layoff, and now she is wondering, how do I turn my layoff into a career advantage? So, Mike, help us out here. You've gone through this. You just got laid off. What wisdom can you offer Helen?
Well, first of all, I would say thank you, Helen, for the question. And you know, there are several different aspects to getting laid off. I think that one of the most important ones for me, and it's taken me a while to process this, is just as her leaders told her, it was not, a performance decision. The decision to lay me off was part of a broader strategy, at least I hope so, a broader strategy around economics. So, to quote Michael Corleone in The Godfather, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Now, that said, it still hurts. Yeah. And, it still stinks. I think the way that you turn it into an advantage is you treat it, and I know this requires some mental gymnastics, but I'm treating it like a sabbatical. And it's been interesting and also candidly very introspective to look at this pause in work as a time to assess what's most important for me, whether it's work or professional, or professional or personal.
So take me through. I
Sure.
should tee up for the audience. I went through this as a young man at 32, sadly on my birthday of all times, because it's May 1. And I didn't know this. A lot of layoffs can happen around the beginning of May, end of April. So I learned not to take it personally, but boy, did it hurt.
Yep.
I didn't really know how to process it. And I famously said, I feel like I'm attending my own funeral. It was so morose.
Yeah.
But then once I got out of the building and my former company gave me a rich severance package. I had several weeks to transition to a new job, and I did. So I'm wondering if you could offer some parallel insight into
Sure.
how your situation fleshed out and how you're using the time to think about getting laid off and what happens next.
Right. So with this layoff, which occurred in January of this year, 2023,
Mm-hmm.
I did not receive such a generous package.
Oh,
I did receive several weeks of severance, and they covered my health insurance, I think, for the rest of the month or something like that.
ooh,
So, part of what I had to come to grips with was that, one, this offers me an opportunity to recast myself if I want to, and two, in large part, it's about how do I want to brand myself going forward, and
okay.
do I want to stay in learning and development. And I'm also an executive coach, and have coached mid-level managers and um, people all over the globe for the last 25 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me an opportunity to think about what I really love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I love to do is coach. And so looking for new opportunities for me is about finding the right fit, to finding my work fit. I don't know if I answered your question, Dan, but that was what was on my mind.
You did answer my question
Okay,
because
good.
I think what happens is um, if the process unfolds well, organically and well,
Mhm.
you get past the grieving and the Kubler-Ross milestones, if you will,
Right.
and you get to a place of, I don't want to say acceptance, but okay, intentionality. I have to get focused to connect up with something new. What should that look like? And this
Right.
is a perfect opportunity to say, I'm not going to grab just anything. I want to get it right. And as you said, I want the opportunity to establish the kind of work fit that I need. So let's turn it back on you.
Sure.
What are the things that you discovered about your own work fit that you're trying to find in your next opportunity?
Yeah. Yeah. Just an aside, I went through the Sarah model, which some of you may be familiar with: shock, anger, recognition, acceptance. I've heard the S stands for something else, but I won't bring it up here since this is a family show. Uh, so for me, the first thing was, and I don't want to, I don't want to make this about, about some of the worst times that all of us have been through over the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But the pandemic shifted all of us into remote work for the
Yeah.
for most of us. Obviously, there were some heroes who
Mm-hmm.
were not able to do that. For me, first and foremost, in my career now and in the future, I love working remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and in large part because it allows me to do more of what I like to do. Remote work eliminates, for me, what is a 45 to 60-minute commute into downtown Denver if I choose to work there. And
Oof.
I by the way, my wife and I live in a suburb of Denver to the south and east of town, of the city. So first and foremost for me, it's remote work. Uh, that doesn't mean that I eschew all human contact.
Right.
So a large part of what I've thought about and what I've acted upon is building community in different ways. So community in the community that I live in, community online, community with, college buddies who I haven't seen in 40 years, like yourself, that type of thing. And, and that helps me stay connected with the human side of my business. I mean, learning and development in the end is about collaborating in ways that benefit the careers and ultimately all the stakeholders in any type of company or any type of business entity. So for me, that's really important. Place is important as well. And we love living in what is essentially rural suburbia, Colorado. It affords the lifestyle that we like. And, now that our kids are either out of the house or going to be out of the house within the next year or so, it means that I can dedicate more of my time to doing what I love to do. And again, that's, helping people develop their careers.
So it sounds like you answered a question that I sometimes asked when I was an executive recruiter of people who called me freshly laid off and freaked out and are suddenly looking for a job.
Yeah,
And here's the question, Mike.
sure.
Describe for me what you think makes you most happy about the work that you do or hope to do. Don't tell
But,
me what the job title is.
right.
Describe for me the attributes.
Yeah.
And to people who have not been laid off, but are supporting people who have been, a variation on the theme is from somebody who has been laid off, who is asking for help. Help
Sure.
me out here. Tell me what I look like when I'm doing my best work. What are my best attributes? And
Right.
again, it's not the ability to close a deal necessarily. It's the joyful aspect. It's the humanity aspect of life.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Oh,
so talk to that.
yes. I was going to say, for me, it's quite simple. I love seeing others develop their careers. That's where I get my happiness, my fulfillment.
Mhm.
Now, I want to put a caveat on that. I'm 62. You were supposed to do a spit take there and say, "Gosh, you don't look over 30." But
I'm 62 too.
so I'm at a different stage in my career than, for instance, the person who reported to me at my most recent company. She's in her late 20s
Oh yeah.
and just got her first apartment
Right.
in Brooklyn. And so, what I value at 62 is not what I valued at 32. I'm
Mhm.
not saving for my kids' college anymore. I'm not paying off, a mortgage. There are a lot of sort of different variables that don't exist for me right now. And what I tell people in interviews and what I have advised those that I mentor or that I coach when this type of topic comes up is title means nothing. Like, I'm not looking to pad my resume at this point. You can call me janitor. You can call me, chief executive of washing out the coffee mugs at the end of the day. I don't care. I want to be doing the work that I truly enjoy. And my dad gave me some great advice, 45 years ago, that I promptly ignored and have now come to realize was actually pretty wise. And that is, focus on what you love to do, and the money will come, the plaudits will come. So a large part of this introspective journey that I've taken, not just over the last, 3, 4, 5 months since I've been laid off most recently, but
Mhm.
throughout, I would say, the last 15 years of my career has been, how do I want to spend my day? Like, what gets me? I don't get excited to wake up in the morning. I actually am frustrated that I have to go to bed at night because I just want the next day to start.
Wow.
And for me, that's coaching, that's mentoring, that's facilitating leadership development. You mentioned in my intro that I do some work with sales. That has shifted now to leadership development work with organizations where I'm either coaching or facilitating learning for mid-level managers and up, and individual contributors who aspire to be managers. And that's what I adore doing. It's born out of the fact that when I moved into those types of leadership positions, back in the dark ages, I had virtually no support. And, I learned by making some really painful mistakes. I don't necessarily think that my training and coaching can eliminate all of those mistakes, but I can shorten the learning curve for those folks who are moving into those roles.
Now, you and I
Mhm.
both started off our careers in the same building, if you will. I consider our college experience part of our career experience
Mhm.
because
I
that
would
was
agree.
so essential to it. We both are graduates of the Park School of Communications at Ithaca College, which has a lot of esteemed alumni who made it very big in broadcasting
Yep.
and in advertising and media. And you had your path. You were a broadcaster. I was a broadcaster on campus on the radio station.
Mhm.
Um, and then we moved on to other things. My mentor at IC, the late Professor Howard Kogan, got me
Mhm.
into advertising and marketing. That was a huge part of my early career, um, highly influential part of my career. So my point is that you and I didn't start off in broadcasting and stay in broadcasting. Thank God, because the model is just a mess.
Yeah.
But how has having so many varied career chapters helped you right now?
Yeah. So, without going through the whole resume, I've been a TV and radio sportscaster. I've been a financial consultant. Led, I've been an entrepreneur. I've led business development groups. Um, I've been in sales enablement, leadership development. The list goes on and on. Check out my LinkedIn profile, and there's some of it's on there. And and forgive me as I was going through that, Dan. I forgot the root of your question. My apologies.
The root of the question is, and it's informed not by you or I, but by
Right.
my older brother who spent his entire career in one line of work. And he
Oh,
went
gotcha.
on a corporate track. And when that company got acquired by its largest competitor, and my brother found himself out of a job, um, he didn't have the experience outside of the silo, if you will, to
Right.
help him be agile in his next career steps as perhaps you or I were. In my particular case, like you, varied career, broadcasting, marketing and communications agency, executive work,
Mhm.
later on 20 years as a headhunter, and now doing this, doing What's Your Work Fit. You've done a lot of different things. How has the diversity of your experience helped you
Gotcha.
um, you know, ease your way, be more agile in not only the opportunities that you would consider, but the range of possibilities that you will have in your day.
Yeah. So thank you for
Sure.
restating the question. That's one of the things that tends to happen as I get older. So a couple of things. One is um, I have proven to myself that I have the flexibility to be able to move in different directions.
Hmm.
And one of the best things that ever happened to me was I essentially got fired from a job at Charles Schwab and Company after 12 years there. And my first thought was I can be a TV sportscaster or I can be a stockbroker. Those are the only two things I can do. And that launched me on an entrepreneurial career where I spent 6 years just doing the stuff that I really like to do
Yeah.
and discovering skills, characteristics, and behaviors that I either had or wanted to develop. And without getting fired from Schwab, I wouldn't have a master's degree. I wouldn't have written 2 books. I wouldn't have started a business. I wouldn't have coached for Tony Robbins for 4 years,
Hmm.
which was wild in and of itself. And I wouldn't be where I am today. Although physically where I am today is sitting on the floor in an empty house with a whole bunch of cardboard boxes around. But we tell our kids you can be anything you want to be. And I tell my boys who are now, both in college, one's a junior, one's a senior. Um, when you get out, here's the dark secret. No one cares where you went to school.
Right.
They care about the relationships you built, the skills that you acquired, and your ability to socialize with a broad and diverse community of people. And that's to me, that's what has given me personally the confidence to try new things. I think the other thing too, and I'm blessed in this way, is I have a very understanding and loving partner, my wife, Terry, of almost 27 years, who has, one, allowed me to pursue these creative uh, tendencies, if you
Mm-hmm.
will,
Mm-hmm.
and also recognizes that I'm the type of person who needs that type of variety. So change doesn't scare me anymore. And when I was half my age, when I was 31, I think change scared me more then.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Well, it's interesting because I agree with that. When in the run up to my big layoff when I was 32,
Hmm.
change freaked me out because for
Yeah.
whatever reason, I thought that change would make me irrelevant.
Hmm.
I worked in a line of work. I was at the cutting edge of digital marketing at a time when people were still putting ink on paper and doing broadcast commercials and not knowing how they, necessarily impacted a consumer.
Sure.
So for 5 years or so, a little over 5 years, I had insulated myself in a wonderful line of work. And then I wasn't in that line of work anymore. And it was an important lesson, Mike, because it did say to me, change is good. It's maybe something that can get you onto something different
Right.
and better. And that change for me eventually led me to becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And for 20 years of my life being a formidable executive recruiter, making good money, but more importantly, helping other people achieve their career goals.
Right.
I want to take a pivot here
Sure.
and go to a question that's posed by Jazz. Hey, Jazz.
Mm.
And we're talking about fear. Her greatest fear is that I will be replaced on the job by robots, and I know I'm not alone. So let's bring in HAL 9000 and ask you what is probably the topic du jour with AI so much in the
Yeah.
news and with striking writers and creators in Hollywood worried that they're going to be made obsolete by ChatGPT writing scripted comedies and drama series that we'll see on TV in the future. Um, Talk to the fear that Jazz is having about that and how perhaps we can pivot away from it or overcome that fear.
Yeah. Jazz, this is a great question. Thank you so much for taking the time to think through that. I'm actually attending a conference next week here in Denver on the impact of AI.
Mm.
So the question is timely as well. Probably be better suited to answer it in a week, but
Mm.
I'll give it a stab. You know, call me naive, and I have been called worse. I do think that AI can replace us to a degree,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think that the human element of of interaction, of relationships, of community, and I've used that word several times, just in the 25 minutes or so that we've been together.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that AI cannot replicate that, at least not currently. I mean, 100 years from now, who knows? I'll be walking around as robots anyway. Um, I do think that, when you are selling yourself, and let me put some context around that. Every day as a person at work, you're selling yourself. You're selling your value to the company, to the customer or the clients. You're selling yourself to internal and external constituents. You're sort of constantly in either bright or somewhat dim spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
showcasing your talents and skills and making sure that you're delivering value. And when AI comes into play, I think it supports us. I think we're all a little nervous about it now because it's new and it seems all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
But my sense is that we will learn fairly quickly the limitations of AI. We're already learning that,
Mm-hmm.
what it can and cannot do, and where those of us in the human experience fit and add value. So depending on how you look at it, either we make AI more valuable or AI makes us more valuable. But I just don't see, Jazz, that it will replace folks in the same way that a robot might replace someone on a package line at Amazon.
So last week, I
Hmm.
was looking at the post-show comment thread on my Friday social media whip around, and strange things were starting to happen. I was getting comments from supposedly 3+ degree connections on LinkedIn. Okay, so these are people, not only do I not know, they're not even in my sphere of influence. But the strange thing about it, and it relates to AI, is that it was regurgitating comments that I had made either on my own post or on other posts and changing the syntax around, maybe the paragraph construction. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And it
Hmm.
wasn't just me seeing it. Stu Katz, our friend from Ithaca College, was seeing
Right.
it too. So it's an annoyance to a lot of people, but that leads me to believe that somebody is trying to use it to figure out how to game something. That's a cautionary tale, though, right?
Sure.
And I don't think either you or I have the answers as to how that's going to impact Jazz's career, or for that matter, yours or mine. But it's something I think we need to be vigilant about.
Yeah.
To that end, how do we how do we place the most value on the work done by entities with a beating heart? And why is that important? Do you think it's important? And if you do, why do you think it's important?
Well, yeah. If I didn't think it was important, I wouldn't be in the business and have the passion for
Right.
leadership development and learning and development overall. You know, in the end, um, I think that we contribute so much to each other, and the example I'll give you is one that I've experienced very recently. So I shared this with you before, Dan. Happy to share it with the rest of the group. But my mom passed away a couple of weeks ago,
Mm.
and I, my mode of communication to the community is either Twitter, which I use mostly to talk about sports, um, and LinkedIn. And so
Mhm.
I posted something on LinkedIn with a picture of my mom from, she was probably in her early 30s in that.
Gorgeous picture, by the
She's
way. She was a
stunning. Yeah.
stunning woman.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that all went to my sister, unfortunately. This is what you've got. So, but the outpouring of messages of condolences,
Yeah.
of just those little heart icons from people all across the spectrum of my life has really been warming, heartening, and candidly very comforting.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the value of those of us with a heartbeat and at least partially functioning brain, um, I think that there's that human connection that we all crave.
Yeah.
And coming back to AI, my sense is we're more scared of it now, again, because it's new, because we don't know its limitations, we don't know its potential. But just in the same way that I was just out at the gym the other day, and I saw a young woman walk past me out of the ladies' locker room wearing bell bottoms, and I thought, okay, what's happened here? Am I in the Wayback Machine? I think there will be a gravitation back towards human interaction, human creativity, after we get through sort of this initial phase of AI. As I said before, you may call me naive. The robots may take over the world in 5 years. Um, there's a great cartoon in the New Yorker, I think, New Yorker magazine last week, referring to that. So, I naively and hopefully hope that that this human interaction that we're enjoying today with a
Hmm.
live audience is something that never goes away, and it can't be replaced.
And yet, kids who are in school now,
Hmm.
and especially during COVID lockdowns, were robbed of critical human interaction with their peers. And I fear will grow up devoid of the tools that they need to get along and to learn how to interact with one another. Without getting into really broad details, I know people who have kids who just get sucked into an alternate reality, if you will, with video games or other kinds of apps. And those kids are going to have a tough time of engaging with the world and with the workplace. We need these skills in order to function, but we also need these skills in order to live, to be present.
Sure.
And to that end, I think that things may have to get worse before they get better, because by our own human nature, we don't fix the squeaky wheel unless it's really squeaky. And like so many things that are happening in the workplace now, with quote unquote wokeness and so forth, those are things that could, in the end, and I believe will make things better. Even though
I agree.
There's a lot of turbidity in the water right now, a lot of murkiness, but things have to get churned up sometimes and brought to the surface before they do get better. And we're better than in the workplace, where now we have the opportunity, Mike, to allow people like you to work remotely if that's what makes it work for you. You're in charge of your day. You're in charge of your outcomes. You own your value. All this stuff that's going on right now is probably going to get us to a point, if it hasn't already, where the workplace is what we define it to be, not what the overlords say. We have to be in central Denver and then take the interstate in for an hour or more. Oh gosh, if I had a commute into DC, that'd be 2 hours each way. That was my commute in the New York City area every day back in the day, 2 hours each way on a train. It's exhausting. People don't want to commute. It's the biggest thing that we can disrupt and create better outcomes for, lots of people.
Right.
Before I get to my final question, I'm wondering if you can share for our audience who may be good networkers for you, Mike, as you are thinking about your next career act. A little more about you and what you think you bring to the table as a leadership coach, as a change agent, to work for a company. Because you did say to me that's really what you would like to do is to work for full-time for a company.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. As I tell folks in interviews, and I tell coaching clients on the leadership, when we're talking about leadership, I've been in leadership and leadership development coaching for more than a quarter century now. And this does not mean that I know it all or that I have all the answers. What it does mean is that I've had the opportunity to learn from many, many, many mistakes. And I bring that perspective when I work with leaders. And I define leaders, by the way, very loosely. So an individual contributor at a company who is identified as a high potential person and maybe moved into management. An individual contributor who is simply a center of influence, someone who, without title, influences others, all the way through to mid-level management, upper-level management, and the C-suite.
Right.
I've worked with all of those, persona, if you will. And what I bring to the table, again, is that experience, but also a coach's acumen in asking questions to help the people I work with understand and discover their own strengths, and also identify gaps as well. And I help people fill those gaps or fill in those gaps. So I think that's the first and foremost thing that I love to do. And the second thing is that I love facilitating large and small leadership development classes, training sessions, offsites, where we get leaders together and I almost act as a sounding board. The metaphor that I've used is I'm like that wall, or the analogy is I'm like that wall that you hit a tennis ball against. So you hit the tennis ball against the wall, it comes back to you with a different spin
Mm-hmm.
and an opportunity to try a different shot. And that's sort of the way I look at the value that I bring to the table. I'm not, this is another place where I'm flexible. I'm not entirely convinced that my next uh, title or role will be in a full-time role.
Mm-hmm.
I am affiliated with several independent companies that um, funnel coaching clients to me, funnel facilitation opportunities to me, and I sort of enjoy that flexibility. Um, I would not have been able to spend, I don't know, 2.5 weeks out of the last 4 weeks of my life of her life
Yeah.
with my mom if I did not have that flexibility. So for that, I am forever grateful.
Oh,
Um,
indeed. I,
yeah,
I think you probably teed up a lot of really wonderful attributes for my final question, which is, what is your work fit? What's your work fit? What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes work a part of your day, doing many meaningful things and not the all consuming day? What's your work fit, Mike?
yeah. So for me, first and foremost, it's interacting with a diverse group of people. And by diverse, I mean economically diverse, background diverse, geographically diverse. I love especially I love working with clients here in the US, but I adore APAC. I love working with EMEA and trying out my high school French and Spanish just to see how far I've regressed over the years. Yeah. So first and foremost, it's working with a diverse group of people. Um, just by dint of having been around for a while, I get a lot of joy from working with people who are at different stages in their careers from mine. And, getting to work with, I'm thinking of one client now, getting to work with a young woman in her mid-20s
Mm-hmm.
who's just trying to figure out what she wants to do, as she says, with the rest of her life.
Right.
Um, is one humorous to me because some of us are still working on that. But the ability to influence the leaders of tomorrow is something that has to be an integral part of my work fit. Logistically speaking, I can work from anywhere. I love the flexibility of remote work. One of the things that's afforded me the opportunity to do is hop on a coaching call with someone in Mumbai at 6 a.m. my time,
Mm-hmm.
or to connect with a buddy in Sydney, Australia, late in the afternoon my time when it's
Right.
her morning the next day. So that's another piece of work fit that I think is really important for me. And in terms of state of mind, as a coach, you're constantly curious. And I'm curious about
Nice.
the world around me. I'm curious about the people I work with. I'm curious about, you know, my new next door neighbors, when we move in our new house in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as I'm feeding that curiosity and as long as I'm learning every day, I'm a happy camper. That's my perfect work fit.
Hey, that's wonderful. And it also reminds me that at our point in our career arcs, we're probably capable of having the best experiences that we've ever had.
Absolutely.
So, to the rest of you people in Mike's and my cohort, these are good times. These are good times indeed. Mike Faber, this has been an absolute pleasure. Before we depart, can you point our listeners and viewers who want to get in touch with you and get to know you better, how they can reach you on social media?
Yeah, I think the best way is just hit me up on LinkedIn. And if you'd like, Dan, I can post my LinkedIn in the feed. I'm not sure how you do that, but I'm happy to do that.
Will do. Will do. Thank you, Mike. I hope we can get you back at some future point and continue this discussion.
I would love that, Dan. Thank you, and have a great day. And keep the faith for everyone who's facing work challenges. I will tell you, there's a huge community out there of support.
Thank you so much.